Today we will build a small plant simulation model to demonstrate how plant simulation works and how easy it is to create a model. I'll show how inheritance is used and also a little bit about optimization. To create a new plant simulation model, we start with plant simulation from the scratch. We create a new model. And I have an empty plant simulation model with the event controller. Most plant simulation models contain a source where the material is coming from, with a station, with a drain, and this is everything we need to get a running simulation model. Now this would be, of course, very simple, so we want to enhance our simulation model a little bit. We move the station, create a little bit more space, and I'll show you inheritance. Normally we have the station, and we can go here to our library and derive a new object, our own station. And this station can be used multiple times. And I can put it here into the library and insert maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of those stations. Now currently all of those stations have a processing time of 10 seconds. And I want to change that into a more realistic value, in our case, to 20 minutes. And I'll do that here in the class. Change the processing time from 10 seconds to 20 minutes. Plant simulation is very comfortable to show those times. We have seconds, minutes, hours, day as time format. And I change the processing time to 20 minutes. Now I did that here in the class, and this means that I do not have to open all of those objects. It will be done automatically in all those these inherited objects. I have the 20 minutes here. So we only have to do it once, which makes it very safe. I want to insert also a line and conveyor line, keep it very simple. So I have my conveyor here, say duplicate. Here's my conveyor. And I insert in conveyor, and if we change the length, for example, to 3 meters, we see this is also changed in the model. Insert 1, 2, and 3 conveyors. So we have 4, and we can connect them directly here. We could make it nicer with curved conveyors, but that's good here for the beginning. We connect our stations with the drain. This is where the material is going to. And already we have a running simulation model. So within a few seconds, we have this working model. It's a simple model. At the front, we have a single station with a processing time of 10 seconds. Here at the back, we have 4 stations with a processing time of 20 minutes. We can run the simulation faster. And as we see, we have 4 parallel conveyors. And since the processing time at these stations is much longer than at the machine in front, a backlog forms. And we can run the simulation faster. So we've simulated 1,700, 2,000 days of simulation time. And we see the average lifespan is 2 hours, 49 minutes and 59 seconds, so about 2 hours 50. The exit interval is about every 5 minutes. The total throughput we've produced in this time, 900,000 parts. The throughput per minute is 0.2, which relates into a throughput per hour of 12 parts and a throughput per day of 288 parts. If we make a side calculation, average exit interval is 4 minutes and 49. So we have 4 stations. Each station has a process time of 20 minutes. So our capacity is 4 times this 20 minutes. So 1/4 of this 20 would be 5 minutes is our expected exit interval, and this is quite exactly what we have here. If I want to produce different products now, I can use a table. Insert in a model, and the unformatted table is empty. If I drag this data table onto my source, it will change the format in the format that I require, my movable units, number, name, and attribute. Now I want to create different parts. My movable units, my parts are here. If I open a part, I can assign a certain color, for example, this nice blue. And I can derive my part. For example, 3 times. I open my data table, insert my first part type, change the color of the second product, for example, to white. Insert the second part and have a third part and use a vivid orange for this part type. Okay. For the batch size, I can insert my numbers, for example, 2, 3, and 4, and I can create individual product names like A, B, and C. So now with this production table, I'm producing my parts. If we run the simulation slower again, we see we start with part type A. We have 2 bluish part types A, followed by 3 white part types B, and then followed by the part type C in orange. If we run the simulation faster again, we see that works very nice. We have a distributed production with different part types over different lines, and if we run the simulation very fast, we'll get a high throughput. We can stop the simulation, for example, after 1,000 days. 3 columns are 3 days, say apply. So we are already at 5,000 days, so we run the simulation fast. Including animation, these are already 1,000 days of simulation time. And if you look at the drain, and if you look at our statistics, we see again, we have the average lifespan of 2 hours, about 50 minutes. And we get also detailed statistics for the parts. So we have part type A, B, C, with a total throughput of 64,000 parts type A, 96,000 part types B, and 127 and something part types C. This is 22% of type A, 33% of type B, and 44% of type C. We have the standard deviation, the mean time, minimal value, maximum value, standard deviation, so hundreds of different statistical values, which are automatically saved for the parts during the simulation run, so we can do extensive statistic analysis. Now let's make the production product type sensitive. If we want to switch between part types, we can define setup times. For example, our default table is unformatted, and we use this table as a setup table in our machines. So we can give it any name. Let's rename it into setup table. Okay. And when we open a machine, we have a processing time, 20 minutes, and we can do the setup with manual workers or automatically. We choose automatically. For every value, there are multiple ways to define a value. The easiest one is a constant value, like here, 20 minutes. We can have normal distribution, Erlang variable, all kinds of mathematical distributions, also empiric, continuous or discrete empiric functions, formulas. We can calculate values. We can use a list, what we will do here, or with a metric type, we could define the setup time from every product type to every product type. We keep it simple, so we don't have to type that much. Setup table, insert it in here, say OK. We are asked whether the table should be formatted. Absolutely, that's what we want. And now we have a formatted setup table here. Movable unit type A, B, and C. And the setup time should be, for example, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and 3 minutes. So we have this setup table defined for one machine. Of course, object orientation, we want to do it here in the class. So we choose setup time, this depending. We use our setup table. We don't need to pass. Okay. Okay. And then we check setup table here. The children inherit, that's this green point here, inherit their behavior from the master object. Excellent. And this one, which we used to do the formattation of the setup table, can also be switched into the inheritance again. Now, when we start and run the simulation and look at the simulation, we see the parts are going over the stations. And when we open a station and look at the statistics, we see that the station is working for about 90% and requires setup for about 10%. So 10% of the time is currently used to do the setup, which is of course reducing our throughput. When we insert our bottleneck analyzer, the bottleneck analyzer is scanning the whole system and shows with those green bars the utilization working, this is good, and brown, this is the percentage for the setup time. So this station is reduced in the percentage of working time for the setup. And this would be our potential for optimization using the genetic algorithms. If we want to run an optimization now, we simply plug in our genetic algorithm module and tell it to maximize output over 5 days by tweaking the production sequence. We drag our target on top of the genetic algorithm wizards. We use the drain, drop it here, and select from the attributes, for example, stat num in, the statistical parts which come into this drain. This is our goal. We want to maximize the statistical parts that we are producing. And as an input, we drag the production table on top of our GA wizard. And if you look at the GA wizard, what is it doing? It is running a number of generations, and we want to maximize the throughput. So we can change it, for example, to 22 generations and a generation size of 22. And our optimization parameter is this production sequence. And the goal function, currently it's very simple. We only have one goal, statistical number of parts which are produced. We could combine in this table multiple attributes in one goal function. Before we start the optimization, we want to modify our production table. So currently we only have a production sequence of 3 parts. We copy that and paste it several times here. So we have a production sequence of 36 parts, and currently we are producing them in the sequence ABC, 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 with a batch size of 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 for each part type. The genetic algorithm wizard will then go through this production sequence. Use this. And now we have a sequence of 36 elements and optimize this. Now, even if this production looks very simple, we have a quite complex production problem. We specified 36 production orders, which can be arranged in 36 factorial different ways, leading to approximately 3 times 10 to the power of 41 possible combinations. To put this into perspective, the total number of stars in the universe is estimated to be around 10 to the power of 24. We want to limit our simulation runtime to, let's say, 5 days. That might be enough for optimization. Okay. Reset and start the optimization, and plant simulation starts with 1,376 parts. I'll write that down while the simulation is running. After 12 seconds, we run 22 generations with the individuals. And if you look at our offspring diagram, we see that we have very nice progress in the optimization. We started at the beginning with 1,336 parts. And during each generation, we found better results. We kept the best ones. We also have not so good ones. So we have an search space for optimization. We see we did not finish, but we found a much better result. The genetic algorithms write the best production sequence. This was the original one. So this was the original production order number 30, 31. So this was taken to the first and second place. And now this is the new production sequence. And we see that plant simulation found by using the genetic algorithms that it makes sense to sort those production orders by production type C or A or B. And this was done without any human logic, without any help that this would be a good guess for the optimization sequence. So it's a simple sequence. We can follow what the simulation is doing and why this is done. And it was found completely automatically. So when we run the simulation after 5 days, we can add the display to our source, and we see that we have an throughput now of 1,408 parts. So about 10% higher throughput just by optimizing the sequence without any additional buffers, without any additional machines. When we run the analysis again, we see that this percentage in green working is higher and brown setup time is lower, which is clear. We have a long sequence with one product. We do not have to do any setup in between. And we look at the statistical numbers and we could see that we could reduce the percentage from 10% setup time to 2% setup time. So this is extremely helpful without a lot of thinking, without a lot of modeling. Plant simulation can find an optimal production sequence very easily by using the genetic algorithms.